Tua Tagovailoa, can he really be a must-have quarterback? A lot of conflicting reports over the offseason. Does he have a strong enough arm to keep up with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle? Can the Dolphins offense move the ball down the field and score enough touchdowns? Is he going to be a quarterback one? Find out right now on the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. What up, everybody? Welcome back to the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Sky Guasco, sitting in the big seat today, filling in for my man, Bobby Lamarco, taking the night off, but have no fear. We have Queen Roxanne in the place. You can find her on Twitter, Queen Roxanne. Make sure to go give a follow. And, of course, subscribe right here to the Razzball Fantasy Football Show on YouTube. Hit that bell so you don't miss any of our episodes coming up through the rest of the offseason. We are ticking down the days quickly into the preseason. Next Thursday, about a week from tomorrow, we will have For Reals football. I'm extremely excited, ready to go. You can find me on Twitter as well at Sky Guasco, SkyGuasco, and of course, everything Razzball Fantasy on YouTube. You can find all of our articles from our great writers. DT's Top 200 has dropped. Bob's got some fresh articles as well. So make sure you upload the podcast and subscribe there as well. All right, y'all, very excited for this episode today. We're going to be talking about must-have quarterbacks. Now, this is kind of a tough one because it kind of depends on how you draft generally, but quarterbacks, you either go early and you take the big shots, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, or maybe you wait for the middle round guys that you're hoping to boast, or every single year, of course, we see somebody drafted outside of the top 15 quarterbacks that falls into the top 6 by the end of the year. So it kind of depends on your league settings with Superflex and single quarterback, of course, but also we want to make sure that we are looking at all the quarterbacks. We got 4 names for you today. Roxanne, I'm going to let you kick it off. But before we get into the top quarterbacks, you and I, this is our first episode together. So I'm curious. We've had, about 6 months of football, I guess, but like a month and a half of like actual football. These guys on the field starting to run some drills. We're starting to see new faces in new places. That's looking really great. Some names are falling off the charts. Rookies are starting to pop up. A lot of excitement here in this preseason. Roxanne, I'm curious, before we get started, what's one thing that's popped off the page, positively or negatively, a player, a team situation, maybe a position battle? What's caught your attention this offseason so far?
Well, we're going to come back to this with Russell Wilson, but the main or biggest receiver last year in Denver, in Tim Patrick, he got hurt in the preseason, not coming back. So I'm not worried, but I am wondering if Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are going to be able to step up because they have 2 touchdowns between the 2 of them last year. I know Jeudy got hurt and all that, but the point is the main receiver who was probably somebody they were keeping behind the radar. This is going to be a really probably promising prospect for Russell Wilson, now is just completely out of the picture, and you're relying on Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And I want to believe as a Bronco fan, and I'm going to pump them up and I'm going to believe it. But of course, as a fantasy analyst, all that, how's this going to move forward for Russ now? That was a big deal here in Denver. And that was, it was talked about for a while. It's still talked about, like, can they perform? Can they do it? We can say they can, but can they?
I'm excited about the Broncos this year. Russell Wilson, obviously, he's been special. I live in the Pacific Northwest. I'm actually a 49er guy, but I live in Seahawk country. So I've watched a lot of Russell Wilson, of course, over the years. He's special. And I think Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, even KJ Hamler, right, who doesn't get enough rep yet, but we know he could take the top off. And, of course, they have a premier run game behind a good offensive line and a great defense. So I think your Broncos are in good shape. But you're right, having a nice third weapon there for Tim Patrick, who had a lot of hype preseason, for him to go down might be a tough shot there. So, all right, Roxanne, let's get it. You kind of gave us a little teaser on Russell Wilson, but maybe he'll come up later. You have another quarterback who you want to talk about first here for your must-have quarterback.
Well, it's going to be Tua. And I'm not telling you to go take Tua first thing by any means. But if you're going to take big weapons in your first couple rounds, and if Tyreek Hill is one of those weapons you plan on taking, if you can grab Tua in a later round, I thought I put, his ADP is around 125 right now, and that was 2 days ago. I doubt it's changed too much in the last couple of days. If you can get Tyreek Hill in those first couple rounds and then stack up on some running backs, wide receivers, and then get Tua, I think, and I want to believe because I have this duo a lot, that they can hook up. Tua's got, the highest percentage red zone completions and deep balls. Well, we know Tyreek Hill can go for the deep ball. No problem. Can they make that translate? Can they get that chemistry? We're hearing they can. We're hearing they are. So if I don't think he got a fair chance last year with everything that they said happened, whether it did or didn't. Some things were probably weird down there, and he probably didn't get the best chance he could be getting. And I think this year they're all in on him. They would have changed things. They would have done things if they didn't want to keep him. They would not have gotten him these weapons, all these things. They would not have changed and kept him if they didn't think something was going to change with him.
You mentioned Tim Patrick falling down for the Broncos, right? But Jalen Waddle is also banged up for the Dolphins right now. We know that Tyreek Hill's special, obviously. All this chatter about Tua being as accurate as Patrick Mahomes and all this fluff, spare me. But exactly. I do appreciate him having his quarterbacks back, obviously. And we've seen a couple nice throws in preseason where if Tua has the time and he can chuck it, he is accurate. I think there's just the question mark of, can that Dolphins offensive line hold up and give him enough time to get the ball down the field 50 yards? Right. Because Patrick Mahomes had no issue with doing that. I'm not sure Tua is going to be as mobile as Patrick Mahomes to break out of the pocket. And so many of those incredible special Chiefs plays over the years have been the missed sack, spin and chuck it for 55 yards, and there's Tyreek Hill. I just don't see Tua being able to do that as often. Mm-hmm. But what is going to be special about this Dolphins offense now, again, Niners guys coming from the Shanahan offense, they have the West Coast offense, which is going to be, pitch it for 9 yards and let these guys run off the catch. Two of the fastest wide receivers in the league. Tua is going to definitely benefit from that. So maybe it's not the deep ball, but surprisingly, the Dolphins had the 6th highest passing rate last year, as you had mentioned, and the 6th most pass attempts per game last year, which was very surprising to me. So if Tua can stay healthy and hold up, I think you could be right there for a late round sleeper. But a lot of people are nervous, including me. We'll see what happens.
I understand. But like I said, if you want to take the chance and you can load up on other players those first few rounds and get Hill and then Tua later, I just think if it happens, like I said, you're going to be the smartest person in your league.
Absolutely. I agree. And look, when you're not going for the big dogs up top and not even that middle round, right? Like Russ, let's just throw like a Stafford, Rodgers, Brady, Dak, that middle group. If you're not going for them and then you're going behind them, maybe Cousins, Carr, Tua, somebody down there, Matt Ryan, and those guys hit and pop off, those are league winners every single year. Right. So I think Tua obviously has the tools. I like the call there. All right, let me go with a super hot name, obviously, this preseason here. Jalen Hurts getting all the rep. Very excited about him. 2 years ago when he came in, didn't get a lot of work. Last year, he had a lot of work early, and then they became the highest running team in the league. So really, Jalen Hurts is just going to come down. What version of the Eagles are we going to get? Are we going to get the 7th most pass-happy team in the NFL like we did in the first half of the season? Or are we going to get the most rush attempts down the back half of the season like we did in the second half by the Eagles? For me, Jalen Hurts is going to be, I think he's going to be a league winner. If he stays healthy, for me, it's not going to be a problem. Last year, he was QB7 and he had no weapons. This year, hopefully Miles Sanders is a little bit better. Kenny Gainwell has 7 touchdowns in his rookie season. Miles Sanders had none. That's a fluke. Miles Sanders will obviously get better. But if Miles Sanders can turn it on and you have Kenny Gainwell out of the backfield, right? Plus Boston Scott can catch a ball or two. Then you have Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith. Oh, and we bring in A.J. Brown, who's an absolute animal, clearly, and he's already made a couple great plays in preseason. All these weapons weren't quite weapons yet outside of Dallas Goedert last year for the Eagles. And Jalen Hurts obviously has the ability to kind of break the code in fantasy football with his rushing upside as well. He could certainly get 1,000 yards, but I mean, he could go Lamar Jackson, I think, and go 12, 13, 1,400 yards. And if he rushes for double-digit touchdowns and only throws for 25, it doesn't matter. We're talking a cumulative 35 touchdowns. And we saw Lamar Jackson win the MVP a few years ago with about 36 touchdowns, but he ran for 12, 1,300 and threw for just about 3,000, right? So Jalen Hurts doesn't have to be a 4,500-yard passer if he's a 1,200-yard rusher. And we know in fantasy football that that's kind of the cheat code for years and years and years and years. Cam Newton was a top 3, top 5 quarterback in fantasy football. Never a great passing quarterback. He just wasn't. He had a great season in 15 when he won the MVP, but he was never an incredible, pinpoint passer, but it didn't matter in fantasy football. And I think Jalen Hurts can maybe cover up some of those blemishes with his pass game, with the rush game. I like the Eagles' offensive line, number 1 rated by Pro Football Focus coming in. We know the defense is going to be good, setting them up for a plus field position. And by the way, they get to play the Giants and the Commanders twice a season, not to mention one of the easier schedules otherwise. So for me, if I'm passing on some of the big dogs, I've got Jalen Hurts at number 5. So for me, he is a big dog,
Wow.
but in ADP, he's not. So I don't have to draft him at number 5. I have him at number 5.
Right.
So if I get him as my QB, like 8, 9, 10 off the board in the middle rounds, for me, that's an absolute steal. Any reaction to Jalen Hurts?
I can't say that I've put a lot of stock into this pick. And for no other reason other than it's the Eagles. You never know what's going to happen. But you have made a case for me. And I'm drafting in a couple of leagues in the next couple of days. And I haven't taken a quarterback yet, and I'd like to try this strategy maybe.
Yeah, I like it. And again, this is a cheaper, you talk about the stack with Tua and Tyreek, or even Tua and Jalen Waddle, which I like because Tyreek's expensive. And honestly, Waddle kind of is now too, right. Top 3, 4 round pick, but Tua's not, right? AJ Brown's a 3rd round pick, but Jalen Smith Devonta Smith, is not. Dallas Goedert's a 10th round tight end, and Jalen Hurts is going in the middle rounds too. So one of the cheaper stack options you can get at quarterback and then tight end or pass catcher. And if AJ Brown stays healthy for 14 games, we already know that. I mean, he was 4th last year in yards per route run with all the injuries. If he stays healthy, he's going to be an animal. And you get Jalen Hurts on top of that. That could be a league-winning stack for sure, and probably the cheapest, best league-winning stack option in fantasy football. All right, let's get to your second name here. You gave us a little teaser early on. Let's talk about your boy Russ.
All right, let me get back to that. I was looking at how many rushing yards Hurts had last year. I was just noticing that.
Sure, I got it for you.
784?
784. And I think on top of that, though, it's the 10 rushing touchdowns. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So again, if we're looking at, 3,100 yards and 16 touchdowns, okay. But if you get another 1,000 and let's say 10 to 12 on the ground, plus let's make that 3,500 touchdowns through the air and 20 touchdowns, 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. We're talking Lamar-esque season from Jalen Hurts, and I think it's possible.
You just changed my mind on all that.
Boom.
All right. So I know I don't want to sound like a fangirl and all that, but I have always respected the player that Russell Wilson is. My mom, it makes me so mad because she's from Colorado, but she is a Seahawk fan, and she always has been, and she loves Russell Wilson so much. And I've always told, we'd watch games together, and she'd be stressed they're losing. Just, Mom, it's Russell Wilson. You have nothing to worry about yet. The game is not over with Russell Wilson until the game is absolutely over. If you have a minute left on the clock, he is going to do everything in his power to try and win you that game. And most of the time, he is going to win that game. I am very excited he's here in Denver. I think whatever happened in Seattle, I'm still not, there's just so much chatter, you don't know what to believe. So I don't know really what happened. It doesn't, nothing was out in the public that much besides, they chose Carroll over Wilson, which, maybe. I think getting a fresh start here, he chose this place first. He chose to come here. So he's obviously happy to be here. Clearly, we are happy to have a winning quarterback here since nothing has happened since 2015. Don't get me started on that. It's since the guy that beat us in the Super Bowl, that's great. I think Russell Wilson, because he got hurt last year, what his ADP is, what do I have it at? Where are we looking at? 80 to 85? That's what I have written down. That was 2 days ago, so I don't know if it's still, that seems pretty, I guess it's because he got hurt last year and the low yardage and all that. And because of all that, he wasn't going as early in the beginning of the summer as he is now, but people are starting to figure out he really wanted to be here. Things are really clicking, actually, with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy both. If you can wait a round or two and he's still there, I even say third or fourth round, I've seen him going in. If you can get him in those rounds and he's going to put up, say, a 4,200 yard season with 33 to 38 touchdowns and minimal interceptions, because that's what he does. He doesn't ever have a lot of interceptions, ever. That is a must-have quarterback right there for me.
I like it. He also adds, some not small upside, but he doesn't run like he used to when he was younger. But last year, 183 yards, but he missed 4 games.
Right.
Before that was 500 yards, 4, 5. I mean, I think people don't quite understand how incredible Russ was under Pete Carroll, which was a run first, run second, run third down, and then throw it every once in a while. And look, if you have Marshawn Lynch, I would do that too. But they haven't had Marshawn Lynch in a number of years, and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett have been phenomenal, but on minimal opportunity. Russell Wilson, throughout his entire career, since 2012, and 10 years now, QB 11, 9, 3, 3, 12, 1, 8, 5, 5. Last year, he was QB 19, but he missed, again, 4. He missed his first game of his entire career, and he ended up missing 4 games. So I'm with you. Russ is going to be back up at 4,000 yards, probably hovering around 35 to 40 touchdowns. He'll give you 200 yards on the ground and probably 2 or 3 rushing as well, which should put him in the back of the QB1s.
Right.
And right now he's getting drafted about then, but there's not as much hype with him. And again, we've talked about already, if his weapons, Cortland Sutton goes off, which I think he will, Jerry Jeudy stays healthy, KJ Hamler and that run game picks up, I think Russell Wilson could be pretty exciting. So I'm with you on that one. Good call. All right. My final player here is Lamar Jackson. Look, this isn't a guy that anybody forgot about per se, but I did write an article here at Razzball a few weeks ago, and it was my top 5 players at each position not to forget about on draft day. In the quarterback position, I wrote about Lamar Jackson, and it was kind of funny to write about him because I'm like, you think fantasy football quarterback, you think Lamar Jackson right away. But then I was thinking like, well, he won the MVP in 19. He got hurt in 20. The whole Ravens team had COVID in 21. And it was just kind of funky the last couple of years. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe his ADP is kind of dropping a little bit. I've got him at number 3. He's going as like QB6 in a lot of leagues right now. Again, like Jalen Hurts wants to be Lamar Jackson. Let's put it that way, right? Lamar Jackson's already put up the numbers, right? 3,500 plus passing yards, double-digit touchdowns on the ground, plus 1,000 plus yards in 2 different seasons. So we know that's possible. What makes me more excited about Lamar Jackson this year is he's coming back healthy finally. The Ravens finally turned the corner. I know they've been talking about run first this season. I know they have done that, but they've done that forever. And it didn't affect Lamar Jackson then. And their running backs aren't healthy yet, so they can say whatever they want. The reality is J.K. Dobbins is not 100%. Gus Edwards isn't even on the team right now, right? Like Mike Davis? Are you kidding me? Cordero Patterson last year took Mike Davis's job, and Cordero Patterson was a kick returner his entire career until last year with the Falcons. Not worried about Mike Davis, right? They hire Kenyon Drake. I like Kenyon Drake, but he doesn't have the mustard he used to. The Ravens' run game is going to be Lamar Jackson, right? Mark Andrews has put himself on the map as a Kelsey-esque option. Rashad Bateman had hit or miss last year, but he was coming out last year. He was, potentially a number 2, 3 option at the wide receiver position with, frankly, no blemishes in his game via the scouts necessarily. People were just bummed because he ended up on the Ravens. If he ended up on any other team, he might be a top 24 pick right now because of the upside that he possesses. So from 2019 and 2020, in those 2 seasons, Lamar Jackson threw 37 pass attempts in just 4 games. In 2 seasons, 37 pass attempts or more in just 4 games. Last year alone, he threw 37 or more in 5 different games. And again, he missed 4 games.
Wow.
Additionally, they threw at 60%, the Ravens. 60% is still not impressive, all right? You're not excited about 60%, but when you're used to throwing 43% passing and now you're at 60, that's a huge, huge uptick for the Ravens. Now, all 3 of their running backs tore their ACLs, so they had no option but to throw it. Nonetheless, Lamar Jackson can throw the ball. He is a deep ball accurate passer, and whether he wants to run his contract or not, they want to sign him. He wants to be there. This is a big season for Lamar Jackson to get over the hump in NFL terms for playoffs, possibly a Super Bowl run, things like that. But in fantasy, I as long as he stays healthy, I don't see a reason he can't return back to 2019's version when he was far and away, a top 3 quarterback. And again, you're drafting him as a 5, 6, 7, depending on your formatting. So for me, the rushing upside is obviously always there, but I'm more excited about the passing upside. And I'm more excited about this version of Andrews and Rashad Bateman than I was about rookie Andrews and Hollywood Brown back in the day, right? He's got a better weapon around him, and the running backs are not healthy. I think Lamar Jackson turns the corner big time and returns back to fantasy glory. And again, I have Jalen Hurts right behind Lamar Jackson. I'd be happy to take either one of these guys, and they're going in the 5th, 6th round or something, which is ridiculous. So I'm going to have my 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, even a top tight end if I go that way. Then I'm going to grab one of these quarterbacks, and if they hit, I'm winning my league.
You said something right at the beginning about him slipping, and I've noticed that recently. Where are these people, like you said, are they forgetting what has happened? Like, he can run. He is a runner. And again, who is running this year? I don't understand why he would be slipping so much. That's concerning to me, actually.
I think it's just
a top 3, 4 quarterback, no problem.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's just the allure, obviously, of Josh Allen's the consensus number 1. I'm a Justin Herbert guy, so I've got him number 1. But either way, 1, 2. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes is going to be in the top 3. But then, you have all these kind of up and coming quarterbacks. I mean, people have Jalen Hurts that high. Lamar Jackson is in the mix, but if they still believe in Kyler, he's up there, obviously, right?
Right.
So I don't think people are super out on Lamar Jackson by any means. I just feel like it's a rare value at the top. Rarely do you have the guys at the cream of the crop at the position who might actually be a value. Like Devontae Adams for years at wide receiver. He was the first or second, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. They were the 1, 2, 3 wide receivers off the board every year for 5, 6, 8 years, right? But they still somehow were like values compared to everybody else. Like they were so far and away better than everybody. If Lamar hits, which I think he will, he's the only player in the league, in my opinion, outside of maybe Kyler Murray, not even Josh Allen, that could go for 4,000 yards passing, 30 touchdowns, 1,400 yards rushing, and 10 touchdowns. You're talking 5,500 total yards and 40, 50 touchdowns. That would be insane. He'd be far and away the number 1.
Right. I have him in numerous places because of how far he is slipping.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, why wouldn't I take him? You know what I mean?
Well,
and I'm like, well, am I missing something? Have I missed a report? Or I mean, it's Lamar Jackson.
They don't have a pass friendly offense, and they don't have a lot of weapons, and Hollywood Brown leaving, and then Rashad Bateman being unproven. Like, I get it why people think like that. I just don't think like that.
Right.
So I'm ready to do it. Also, it's a small discrepancy from 4-point passing touchdowns to 6-point passing touchdowns. However, with a guy like Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, of course, and even Trey Lance, if he can, hit the way that we think he might, those guys make such a difference long-term in those leagues, right? You don't necessarily draft somebody over, Herbert or Allen or somebody like that, Mahomes necessarily, but I'm more apt to fade those top guys because I know the rushing quarterbacks have even more value in the 4-point passing touchdown market. So something to consider. All right, so quick recap here. We got Tua Tagovailoa, From the Miami Dolphins, Jalen Hurts. Of the Philadelphia Eagles, Russell Wilson. Of the new Denver Broncos, and my boy Lamar Jackson. This has been the 2022 version of Must-Have Quarterbacks. Before we get out of here, Queen Roxanne, is there anybody else that we didn't, maybe like an alternator? Is there anybody else? Just, I'll put you on the spot.
Damn.
I'll put you on the spot. You don't have to go, crazy stats or anything, but just somebody else that you could see maybe being like a late round guy. For me, I'll jump the gun and give you a little time. All right. I'm going to just do it. It's a homer pick for me. I'm an Oregon Duck. Love my boy Marcus Mariota. He might only play half the season. He is free. Nobody's drafting Marcus Mariota. I get it. He's been hurt for years. He wasn't that incredible in Tennessee, but I'm telling you right now, he knows the system. He's already looked really good in preseason. Kyle Pitts is a wide receiver playing tight end. That's a mismatch. Drake London's going to catch on. Cordero Patterson's a wide receiver out of the backfield, and Tyler Algier might be a nice piece for that as well. I really like the offense, and everybody that's a pass catcher for the Atlanta Falcons is over 6'3". They're all massive. He had that in Tennessee, and it went really well. He has Arthur Smith from Tennessee. He knows the offense. Marcus Mariota is free, and if he stays healthy, and he also runs the ball, let's not forget, he could end up a top 15 quarterback. I know it sounds crazy, but he could end up top 15 as well. He's totally free. In super flex leagues, don't fade him as your QB3 on a bye week. I think he would be a great flex upside play there. Do you have anybody else maybe in the gamut that you want to throw out there?
Oh, man. That's tough. Well, how about I would just say Kirk Cousins. Because we were going to go with him, right?
That's my guy. I like it.
New offensive scheme, new a lot of things there. There's a lot of, I know it's Kirk Cousins, and that's where everybody's like, it's Kirk Cousins, but that's where, then if everybody says that, take him.
Yeah.
If nobody wants him, take him. Something's got to give there. And it's
totally.
And they have that offense there, I think, is top 5.
100% agree. And they have the Rams former offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. We know what Cooper Kupp was able to do last year. Justin Jefferson now plays that role. Obviously, Dalvin Cook has been perennial as long as he stays healthy. Alexander Mattison has a little chatter about maybe getting traded, but if that doesn't happen preseason, I don't think it will at all. Although if he goes to the Falcons, he's a first-round pick in my opinion. But
and I have him probably in 95% of my leagues.
Yeah, me too. I just him and Pollard, I think you just have to have. I would put AJ Dillon in that too, but I don't think he counts anymore because he's like got his own role now. But nonetheless, yeah, I totally agree. So
we're on the same page with all of those.
Kirk Cousins, right, has been top 15. I don't want to go crazy with 12, but he's been top 15, but he's drafted in the 20s every year. Now he's finally got some respect because last year he blew it up. And let's not forget, look, I know everyone hates on old man Thielen. All right. Don't think of him as Adam Thielen anymore. Think of him as a super high priority, high efficiency wide receiver 3 who's going to get 10 touchdowns. He's going to have 800 yards. He's going to have 80 catches. Again, he's free too. He's in the 8th round or something like that. And Kirk Cousins, you could pick up in the 9th or 10th round. If you don't get Jefferson or Cook, great stack with those guys. I like Kirk Cousins. I scratched him right before the show.
That's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to say Kirk Cousins. Everybody, you're either in on him and you're like, yes, it's going to be great, or you're out and you're like, I will have nothing to do with him.
Totally agree. All right, y'all.
What do you think about Jalen Reagor going there? Nothing, right?
I think he's just going to be kind of caught lost in the mix. I just think there's too many other bona fide weapons. I think he's good depth. But KJ Osborne, nobody's talking about, and he was a pretty high profile 3rd option, 4th option last year. So it's cool. I think I like to see the kid get another chance.
Right.
I liked him a lot coming out, and I just think he got a raw deal in Philly, but hopefully he'll bust out. But that's what we got for you on this episode here of the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. Make sure to go catch your girl Queen Roxanne Queen Roxanne, correct, on Twitter. All right. Make sure you go to give a follow. Make sure to subscribe right here to the YouTube channel and pick up the podcast as well. So you're out walking the dog, finishing up some work, getting ready for the day. You're on a drive, what have you. You can listen to these episodes on playback. We just dumped a bunch of them recently to get them all out before the show, before the season. I've listened to like 25 Razzball podcasts in like 6 days. So you can just bust them out. They're all nice bite-sized 15, 20, 30-minute shows. Make sure to leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, of course, and go make sure to follow us on all of the Twitters as well at Fantasy Football, Razzball Fantasy, And you can, of course, catch us at football.rasball.com for all of our amazing articles. For Queen Roxanne, I'm your host, Sky Guasco. You can catch me on Twitter as well, Sky Guasco. Filling in for the big man, Bobby Lamarco. We'll be back with you soon. Appreciate y'all. Enjoy the rest of the preseason. Football is right around the corner. Enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful evening. We'll catch you next time.